Locker Room, with all the sports news you need, live.
Hello, very good evening to you, and welcome to the last week, midweek edition of the Locker Room, coming to the end of the season, guys. But believe you me, we'll be back sooner before you know it, as well. So joined tonight, as always, by Dave and Des. Des is out on the Des is out in the car somewhere, but we won't tell you where it is, just in case you give him a naughty sign at the window. So we'll be on until oops, I'm getting feedback. We'll be on until 7:15, and then we'll be back on at 10 o'clock for the reaction show to the games and the Premiership tonight, as well. Before we start, a bit of sad news to bring you. I don't know if you saw the news, guys, that in the last hour, Jack McGinn has passed away. Or obviously, he was he at the SFA when you were like a match official, Des?
The name, certainly nobody that I'd ever come across, but the name certainly rang a bell.
So that's John McGinn's grandfather, and obviously.
Oh yes, Jack, sorry, the ex-Celtic chairman. Yes.
Yeah,
obviously, yeah. No, yeah, he's synonymous with Celtic in his time he was there as chairman. He was there probably when I was growing up, and then obviously, yeah, he's got the three McGinn boys. But did you say he was a match official?
No, it was ahead at the SFA at some point. I think because I used to see him doing all the kind of like Scottish Cup Go, when it was on the TV, as well. But so that news just came out about an hour ago or something before we came on there. So that's pretty sad. The grandfather of John McGinn. Let's get into the games tonight. We've got a full card of games. Of course, they all kick off at 7:45, apart from Aberdeen against Celtic up at Piccogley. Run through the game for you guys. The bottom six is Hearts against Johnson. I think, I don't know about you, I think St Johnson needs to win tonight, or else we'll be talking about championship football later on tonight for St Johnson. Motherwell and Kilmarnock, Dundee, Ross County, top six. Aberdeen against Celtic. We've got St Mirren against Hibs, and Barry Ferguson's last home game of his tenure against Dundee United at Ibrox. So let's kick off at the game at Tynecastle. What do you make of this, guys? Because it was a bit bizarre when the news came out yesterday about Derek McInnes taking over as the Hearts manager, but still keeping on until the end of the season with Kilmarnock. I don't know about you, but that was quite of a weird one to see, Des.
I can understand why you think it's a wee bit weird, but for me, I think it was the right thing to do. I think that what Derek is doing there is he's showing respect to the club that's currently his employers with 2 games to go. He's also acknowledging, and I think he was very, very clever and astute and correct the way that he answered questions at the weekend, saying that there's been no contact club to club. He's still the Kilmarnock manager. He let Chris Boyd be his agent for a wee bit of time on Sky Sports, and the way that he handled himself yesterday, saying that, no, I will be here for the next 2 matches. The clubs have agreed fees. What he's telling you is he's going to be the new Hearts manager, but he's not trying to sever the relationship that he has with the Kilmarnock guys. I think that Hearts would be foolish and be very folly of them not to say, right, our season's done. Let's be fair. They're not in danger of relegation. They're not in the top 6. So where they finish is maybe not irrelevant because there's money for places. But Hearts are saying we're not going to shoot ourselves in the foot by sticking our feet in the mud and saying, well, if you don't come now, you're not coming at all. And I think it'd be probably inappropriate if he turned up at Rugby Park on Sunday in a Hearts jacket or sitting in the stand, not being part of the Kilmarnock team and knowing that he's going to Hearts. So I think this is maybe the fairest conclusion that it came to. But again, that's only my opinion.
Dave, as an ex-Aberdeen manager, do you think that Derek McInnes is going to Hearts because I think he'll have more of a budget to play about with, and I wouldn't like to say a bigger support, but what do you make of that appointment?
Yeah, there's similar attributes to the Hearts job as there was at Aberdeen, so it ticks a lot of boxes. But I wouldn't say that's the only box that Derek ticks. He ticks a box as he guided Kilmarnock to Europe with an extremely small budget for Scottish Premiership level. He obviously has worked at a similar club to Hearts in Aberdeen. He has obviously brought through a lot in the youth development, which has been very pleasing. He was renowned at Aberdeen for maybe not using the youth system as much, but if you look at this season, he's brought through David Watson, he's brought through in his cabinet, he's brought through Bobby Wills. That was another example. So there's a lot of boxes that Derek ticks that's out with the financial side, Michael, and I think that's important to emphasise. I don't think this should be a financial prerogative for either party. I think this is important that Derek McInnes is more all-rounded. I think the Kilmarnock job has probably made him more all-rounded. I think Aberdeen, obviously, it started off well. It petered off towards the end. But what I would say about Derek is I think he went to Kilmarnock and been more all-rounded as a manager. I think you have to be a club like Kilmarnock, to be brutally honest. I think you have to be more all-rounded in terms of how you operate, how you work, because it's not as though no everything's just handed to you in a plate. So I think Derek's covered himself in glory. I think he's obviously, I know from Aberdeen as well, that he's obviously, does things with distinct professionalism. He does things to the letter. He does things. He doesn't need a PR guy as well to go and tell what to say. He's very astute, as Des says, and very knowledgeable to go and do what's right for him. So, to be honest, I can understand why you're saying that segment of the question, Michael, but I think there's a lot more to Derek McInnes than just financial.
Do you think the Hearts fans will be excited, Des, when Derek McInnes rolls up next season?
I think that Derek gets a hard time saying that he plays pragmatic football. I tell you what, Hearts fans won't be complaining when pragmatic football gets them winning games, gets them into cup semi-finals, gets them into Europe, gets them achieving at the higher end of the league. I think out with the top two teams in Scotland, and I still think he could manage. He's shown his ability that he could manage it. I mean, let's be honest, he showed his strength of character when he turned down one of the big two. I think that Hearts fans would much rather winning football and successful football to begin with, and then take it from there. Because that's what every football fan wants, isn't it? You would rather take not playing particularly well and going home with a 2-0 victory.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I suppose, do you think that if Kilmarnock made the top 6 this season, or obviously it's if buts and maybes, Dave, but if Kilmarnock made the top 6, do you think McInnes would have been away, or do you think he would still go?
Hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it? Interesting. I think he has run his course at Kilmarnock, to be brutally honest. I've seen an interesting point on Twitter today, actually, Michael, about how obviously there's been a lot of decent Kilmarnock managers since Steve Clarke, but he's probably not had the same appreciation for managers as he did for Steve Clarke, and I think that's an interesting aspect, and I don't think you're going to ever replicate with Steve Clarke. That's relevant for the here and now. I think for McInnes, I think it's interesting because they didn't make the top 6, but never did Hearts, and that's where it's interesting. So I think Derek was looking to get back into a big job, although he probably didn't come out and publicly admit it. I think as a manager, you're judged on working at bigger clubs, see how you are at bigger clubs, and Derek McInnes has probably managed 400 or 500 games in Scottish football, so it's a win-win all round as far as I'm concerned.
Des, do you think this will be the second last game that we'll talk about St Johnstone in the Premiership, or do you think that they'll pick up anything tonight at Tynecastle?
Personally, I tipped him to beat Ross County at the weekend in one of the group chats that I was in. I fancied them, but I think what happens tonight, St Johnstone are still under pressure. They're fighting for everything they get. But what I think with the imminent incoming of Derek McInnes is putting a lot of pressure on the Hearts players to potentially play for their future. Liam Fox has been in charge the last couple of games. Lon Shanklin is scoring goals, playing right through the middle, where he's not particularly played this year under Neil Critchley. He's a player that Derek McInnes knows from the time he spent together at Aberdeen. He's looking for a new contract potentially. I think that there is too much in the positive for Hearts tonight. That I can, and it's at home, Tynecastle last game. Yeah, I think Hearts will have too much for St Johnstone tonight, and I think this will be St Johnstone's farewell to the Premier League.
Yeah, I would just add on what Des has said there, actually. I don't think it's coincidence that Shanklin's came back and really started finding form again. Maybe there was a little bit of a mishap between him and Critchley. Maybe I'm not saying a falling out by any stretch of imagination, but maybe there was an element of, I don't enjoy you, I don't enjoy how you work and everything. Now, obviously, Shanklin's been in the public domain enough recently to suggest that maybe the relationship with Neil Critchley maybe wasn't the way it was. I know he's came and admitted to broadcast media recently that what happened in another media channel recently following the Player of the Year awards. He apologised to Neil Critchley about that. So, but then, football's hearsay. Des, myself, we've been in the game long enough that there's certain things that will get said in the media, but it's anything but that internally. So I think there's been, let's be honest, not suggesting that Critchley lost the dressing room, but what I would say is they definitely have the mojo back, Hearts, and they definitely have the mojo back knowing that there was a new manager in place. Because I'll be honest with you, I think they've got the mojo, identity, cohesion that they maybe didn't have after Naismith got let go. So I don't know if that's hearsay in the background that they maybe know there's a Derek McInnes imminent, or if, as Des is saying, contracts are on the line. I think it's maybe more the latter, but I think the fact, like, McInnes isn't in the job yet, and they've got rid of George Grant and Barry Mackay, and that tells you everything. That who's making these decisions? Is it Liam Fox? Is it Jameson, the analysts? Is it McInnes? Who knows? But the fact they're letting these guys go without McInnes being in the door, and I don't know if Barry Mackay would have such a good relationship with McInnes, but he's obviously a Scottish player. He's a player I would suspect would be in McInnes's mantra in terms of players he likes based on what he's worked with over the last 10 years. But back on Shanklin, he's obviously done enough press conferences, Derek McInnes, to he's always been very complimentary of Shanklin, both Aberdeen, Kilmarnock, and elsewhere. So, I think he'll be the first person on the agenda for next season. And obviously, hearsay goes a long way in football internally. So, that'll be a big thing. And that's probably a big reason why Shanklin's came all guns blazing since Critchley got let go recently.
David, I was going to ask as well, when we were on the subject of new managers, and do you think that if St Johnstone goes down tonight or Sunday, do you think that they'll skip with do you think they'll skip with Valakari?
It's a bit of a stupid question, to be brutally honest. I'm not going to go at you. I think what Valakari's done has been improvement. I think he's improved St Johnstone. I think, to be honest, I don't think Stephen Valakari, he will get slaughtered for taking St Johnstone down. But let's be brutally honest about this. I think it's the Craig Levein show that ultimately got St Johnstone down. Now, football shouldn't be about blame culture, but I think Craig Levein and the poor recruitment that there was, lack of defenders, lack of cohesion and identity throughout the team, a lot of season campaigners, which I think you need to a certain extent in the Scottish Premiership, but at the same time, I think you need a bit of flair and creativity as well. It's the latter that has ultimately been the issue for St Johnstone this season. Also, they've also had issues with goalkeepers, they've had issues with defenders, as I've alluded to. I think Steve Val. I think it's a stupid question, to be brutally honest. I think Steve Val will probably go again next season. I think he'll get the opportunity to put his own stamp on the team. I think it's a new adventure for the new owners. I think they probably looked at the whole Craig Levein experiment and probably said it was a huge error from their perspective. And the last thing you want, especially at football club level, Des will tell you this, having been a coach himself, the last thing you want is a lack of stability from a football perspective, because Johnson will have a big campaign next year. They can emulate, they obviously want to go on bet than Livingston, but they'll look to a certain extent emulate what Livingston did this season in terms of trying to get promotion or trying to be in a genuine title race come this time in 12 months' time. So I think for St Johnstone, I think they just need a fresh reset. That's what football clubs have to do. St Johnstone, they've had a proud record, 18 years in the Premiership, and that deserves to be acknowledged because they're not a big football club in Scottish football terms. There's bigger clubs in the Championship, to be brutally honest, in terms of infrastructure, institution, and history, and everything like that. And I know St Johnstone have, to a certain extent, rectified that in the last decade or so, but I think at the same time as well, football clubs go through turbulent periods, to go through times when they're going to be in disarray. I'm confident St Johnstone under Valkyrie would rise back from the dead.
There you go, Des. Don't ask any stupid questions to Dave, because the first bit of the answer will be that's a stupid question. But yeah, I'll know better in future. I'll know better in future, Dave. Yeah, that was a bit of a silly question actually when I said it, because I mean Valkyrie has basically turned St Johnstone round a wee bit, Des, because on the show Christmas, everybody was writing them off, but if you remember that Scottish Cup game against Motherwell up at McDermott Park, that kind of changed their season a wee bit, and they went on a run. They went on a run, and remember as well they beat Celtic as well.
Yeah, I mean one of the few teams to beat Celtic this year. I think what Valkyrie has done. I mean, I know he brought in a couple of players in January, but he was hamstrung from what had already happened prior to his arrival in the situation that he found himself in. I find him quite refreshing, to be honest. I find him he always talks positive. He always talks in familiar terms. I think that going forward into next year, him giving his own time to bring in his own players and to be out of the pressure of where he is at this moment in time, because he's taken over a club who are extremely low in confidence, extremely low in a run of form, to go into a league where he's potentially got the chance to be winning more games, build more confidence, build more momentum. Yeah, Valkyrie, he's got to give it. He was just unfortunate, and not just him. Whoever got the job and was going to inherit a bit of a bad state of affairs. So yeah, he deserves every chance. Although I'm sure I heard on the radio saying that somebody was linking him with a job back in his native land, but no, I think he'll stay at St Johnstone. Certainly his body language and the way he exudes his confidence is that he's happy to be where he is. And if that's the case, then St Johnstone should not even be considering letting him depart the building.
Okay, Dave, let's move up the kind of a wee bit, actually, and let's go to Murrow and Kilmarnock.
Can I just jump on what Des said there? Sorry. I think another part of it as well is I think Jim Goodwin's a good example. Took over at Dundee United. Dundee United were in a bad way at the time. Jim Goodwin was pretty much the day before they were already confirmed relegation. But the day before the season ended, he got a 3-year contract or 2-year contract. I can't remember. He got the opportunity to go and turn the Dundee United team around. A lot of big hitters left the building through wage cuts and maybe being surplus requirements. And Jim Goodwin's mantra. They had a really good, strong campaign last season. Dundee United in the Championship. Ultimately, Raith Rovers did have a valiant effort, but Dundee United just had enough quality. They signed a lot of players Dundee United last season that were Premiership quality, to be brutally honest. And they really have kicked on this season, Dundee United. Maybe it hasn't gone the way they'd have liked the last few games in terms of the European credentials. But what I would say at the same time, Michael, is I think for St Johnstone, I think they've got to look at Jim Goodwin's blueprint as a future idea as to how it can happen at St Johnstone.
Yeah, I think Dundee United. I think Jim Goodwin has done remarkably well this year, bringing them up. He's signed really, really well. He's got a team that's battling for him. And Lee Sharp, his assistant, who I know I've refereed as well. I've also refereed Jim. But having that coaching stability and staying with the squad and staying with the team and staying with the club, yeah, I think that's a good blueprint to work from that St Johnstone should be taking a look at.
Yep. So, Dave, the game at Fir Park tonight is Motherwell against Kilmarnock. That should be another good game. This one.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for both sides they can relax, so it should have the capabilities of being a good game. Both sides have nothing really to play for, so I think it will be a nice free-flowing game. I.e., it'll be 0-0 now. I'm joking. No, I think neither side has much pressure on them, and I think for both sides, I think Kilmarnock, although I'll be interested to see what kind of mentality they have tonight. I think they'll have a mentality that they'll want to end the season well for McInnes. Now, the reason why I make that point, Michael, is I remember a couple of seasons ago, Tony Docherty left Kilmarnock as assistant manager. They ended the season quite well. If you remember 2 seasons ago, Kilmarnock weren't exactly the best frame of mind, but they probably knew internally that Tony Docherty was away to Dundee to take over Dundee manager. The way they kick on in the latter part of the season, I get the feeling that the same element's going to go and happen here with McInnes, because let's be honest, although neither party, and it's not come out in the public, albeit because it's came out in the press conferences and hinted, Kilmarnock players will know in the dressing room that McInnes is off, and that's the thing. They probably have 5 or 6 players that will be away in the summer irrespective anyway. So I think for Kilmarnock, I think the mentality will be interesting, but I think they'll have a mentality that they'll want to go and end it on a high for McInnes, because McInnes, I know from Aberdeen as well, but McInnes is highly rated within that dressing room. He's highly respected within the dressing room, so that'll be interesting. As for Motherwell, obviously they've had a good, decent enough top 6. They've had a few decent victories. I'd argue that Michael Wimmer has got a big summer ahead of him, so this is an opportunity to maybe try 1 or 2 things. But what I would say alongside that is, I think there's an opportunity as well for Wimmer to really tell the fans what he's kind of looking for ahead of the summer. So, yeah, should be an interesting game tonight.
Yeah, from a Kilmarnock point of view, I think it would be a double blow being in the bottom 6, but also that that you're going to have to look for a new manager next season.
Yeah. What I think, first of all, will permeate through that dressing room is I think that you'll see Derek McInnes trying to instill upon his players that he's still in charge and he's going to be demanding a win, because he's obviously now he's plenty an audience of Kilmarnock fans and Hearts fans, and he's obviously wanting to make sure that he can get his point across. So it really is up to the Kilmarnock players to follow those instructions and follow through. From what bits and pieces I've been hearing and seeing and reading, and I'm sure the same as you, there's a name that's getting touted for potentially taking up the Kilmarnock post, somebody who's maybe particularly quite close to the club previously.
Is it Barry Ferguson somebody put up here?
No, it's not Barry. No, no, it's not Barry. I would think that the Kilmarnock players, now, as David said, these guys, a lot of them are on 1-year contracts, 2 at the most. Some may be coming to the end of it. They're playing for their deal for next year as well, and they're playing to impress the potential future manager that's watching it. So I don't think, and I don't see that Kilmarnock players can now constitute this as a dead rubber. It's not going to affect their future. Michael Wimmer has came in. I've been quite impressed with what he's done. He's already signed up a few players for Motherwell for next year. We also know Lennon Miller is potentially not going to be there next year. In fact, I'd be absolutely gobsmacked if he's there next summer for pre-season. So, as much as a dead rubber as it goes, I still think there's maybe quite a bit riding on it. I would, if I was going to pick any game tonight to be a draw, this is probably the game I would take to be a draw. But when I get home, I'll be interested to watch the results coming in.
Dave, I know that you don't go to many press conferences nowadays, but back in the day, I think you would have loved to be in the room with Michael Wimmer, the Motherwell manager, because I watch him every week, and he's always got a smile on his face as well. But that's what you like to see about any kind of manager, if it's in Scotland or England as well, because that carries on. That carries on to the players as well.
Yeah, he's got a strong personality, Michael Wimmer. That's the first impression I got when he took on the Motherwell job. He's got a strong personality. I think he's built up a good understanding of the players. I think the players are building up a good understanding of him. And when you've got that cohesion and you've got that reciprocation of that understanding, it's always a good thing for all concerned. So, he's obviously worked some of the best companies. He's worked in some of the most hostile environments. He's worked in some of the most under pressure environments. I think that's a win-win situation for Motherwell, because I know Motherwell's not a club that are really strict under pressures and everything, but what I would say at the same time is when things don't go well, they are very, very quick to let the managers know. So I think that's a key thing before next season. Obviously making sure that everything's gone to the right track. I'm confident Motherwell can go and start the season well, but with the imminent departure of Lennon Miller, as Des has touched upon, and also a host of other players potentially out the door, even although they have signed a few players on contracts, I would say that they'll maybe need to go and add players in each specific position to go and just kick on from anything this season as well.
Yeah, I think one of the best and strongest striking things that comes out from Michael Wimmer's his dress sense at the side of the park. I love it. When do you see a manager wearing a pair of jeans and a Stone Island jumper compared to the old-fashioned polo shirt, tracksuit, or a suit? It's brilliant.
It's good back in from a night out, Des. You know,
couldn't confirm.
Yeah, well, I've heard about your nights out, Des, in the past, but you can. I've heard some of the stories, Des, from somebody I know that. Somebody that you know, one of the kind of ones. I'll let you have a guess at that one. Dave, as for Kilmarnock, I mean, they will want the season just to end right away, because as I said, that in the bottom six, they've lost McInnes, albeit he's there for tonight's game and Sunday's game, but they'll be back to the drawing board looking for a new manager.
Did you scare Des away before we start?
I did, yes. It's not the first time, by the way.
I think Kilmarnock, they'll look to go to the drawing board. I think Kilmarnock will be an attractive job for Scottish football. I think Kilmarnock do have to go down the Scottish route for the next manager. I think they've tried foreign before and it's not worked. I think they have to go. Dolly Brown's quite an astute guy behind the scenes. and he's a very successful businessman. He's done a lot of great work for Millwall that I think goes under the radar as far as I'm concerned. And I think now gives Kamara the perfect opportunity to push the reset button, go again. There'll be plenty of applicants in for the job, absolutely. And what I would say is I think it gives Kamara a good 2 or 3 week time frame to go and pick out the man and go and take the club forward. Yeah, it'll be a big summer for the club, but I'm confident that they'll get the right person in charge.
Of course, we will give you the team news. Well, hopefully we will give you the team news before we come off air. Also, as well, I don't know if you realise, guys, but there's SWPL game on tonight, and the Champions Group is half-time in the Hibs Celtic game. Half-time score, Hibs 3, Celtic 1. Hearts 0, Rangers 1, 19 minutes gone there, and 8 o'clock for the big 8 o'clock for the big game tonight. And the women's football tonight at Motherwell against Glasgow City, and quarter-8 kickoff in the relegation group. It is Packet Thistle against Queen's Park. So these are the games tonight, Des, in the women's game. But yeah, I mean, going back to the game tonight, I mean, Michael Wimmer was talking to Motherwell TV. He said, "This is our last home game of the season, so it's important to get out for the win, and it'll be nice for the fans to walk away from something as well." Meanwhile, Dennis McKenna says, of course, he was talking about going to Hearts. He says, the club has agreed terms, but I'm just focusing on this game. And when they said that, Des, I was like that. Aye, right.
Listen, of course, you're only human, right? You're only human, and he does know where he's going next year or next season, allegedly. It's not been confirmed. But as I said, Derek is a consummate professional, as he was when he was a player, as he has been all through his time as a manager. I think what Derek does is he reads the room well, and he knows when it's time that he's served his time. He's, other than his time at Bristol, where the goalposts were changed quite a numerous times when he was there, Derek's never really left a club on bad feelings. I know it turned a wee bit down at Aberdeen latterly, but look at the success he brought them. Look at the success that he had at St Johnstone to get the move to Bristol. Look at the success that he's then brought into Kilmarnock, bringing him from the Championship into European football. That professionalism won't drop for the next 2 games, but I'll guarantee you after Sunday's game, he'll be 100% and 100 miles an hour behind the Hearts job if it is confirmed that he's going to be the next Hearts manager.
There you go. So let's have a look at the last game tonight in the Premiership. Dave in the bottom 6, Dundee against Ross County. And I suppose that you made the comparison to Jim Goodwin when we were talking about Dennis McKinnon. You could maybe say the same as Tony Docherty done not a bad job last season. In fact, I think that there was talk of him being a manager of the season, just because it was his first kind of job. But I don't know what's happened this season. It's the total opposite.
Yeah. Oh, aye. Do you mean Sumo Valkyrie, by the way? There we go. No, it should be an interesting game tonight. I think, obviously, Ross County just can't buy a win just now, can they?
No.
Tonight it's not ideal for them to go and really turn around their season, and that's a huge incentive. But Dundee have actually played some good football, but ultimately refereeing decisions have ultimately been to their bewilderment recently. So that's obviously been frustrating as far as the Bees are concerned. But I think it's going to be an interesting game. I think it's must win for both sides. apologies for my picture. I'm trying to get the league table up. I haven't loaded up my homework. I'm busy working today, but there is 2 points in it. So if Dundee win, well, that's pretty much them fine. Sunday will be a dead rubber as far as Dundee's concerned. But Ross County need to go and win. I think it's going to be a decent game for both sides. And what I would say for Ross County is I think if they were to lose this tonight, when they'll be in the playoffs, well, in fact, if St Johnstone go to Tynecastle and win, albeit we have been writing them off, if St Johnstone were to go to Tynecastle and win, as Ross County bottom in goal difference. I think when you look at it, I think it's going to be a decent enough game. I might be wrong, because I'm not sure if you guys can back me up here. I'm not 100% convinced Dundee have a good record at home at Ross County either. I'm confident Ross County have a decent enough record at Dens in recent times. I'd have to get my research out, but I'm just thinking about games off the top of my head. And any game I'm thinking about, I think it's been Ross County that have won the game. So that could go in their favour. But I think it'll be an interesting game. I think it'll be interesting to see where both teams are at. Dundee, I think if it wasn't for VAR, I think they'd be comfortably fine, especially when you take that Mavon game into consideration. But they love to fight another day. And it's going to be an interesting one tonight. And tonight will set the tone, because if Ross County win, that'll be Ross County in 38. And let's say St Johnstone win, squeaky bum time in Perth on Sunday. But ask me the question at 10 o'clock, Michael, because we'll be buzzing for that just to see how everything is. And it should be a really enthralling game, and I think the pressure's on for both sides.
Dave basically was saying about Ross County there, and I was going to ask you as well that in recent seasons, like Ross County went away from home. And they either sneaked a point or maybe 3 points at the best of times, and they had a brilliant home record. But I mean, this season's been so different. They've been too, too inconsistent.
Yeah, I would agree, and that's why they find themselves where they are, because they have been too inconsistent. They can go and put in performances and teamwork that they fully deserve the results they're getting. For Dundee, am I surprised to see them being so inconsistent this year? Probably not, given the fact that last year was their first season in the league under Tony Docherty. Everything's going well, everything was flying. I'm not saying they were complacent by any manner of means, but you do tend to find that the second season in, there is a little drop off. But I think what's in favour for Dundee tonight is that Ross County would be as well going buying a lottery ticket and expecting 6 numbers than expecting a win tonight. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. I think Ross County are now on a run of 7 without victory.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where they are. Would you bet on them if Dundee need to win tonight just to make sure that they are safe and sound, but to finish off their season at home? Ross County need to be fired up, because if they do not win tonight and St Johnstone pull off the unthinkable at Tynecastle and do win, then that turns that all on its head. But I just don't think Ross County have got enough quality in their squad to overturn that. And to compensate against that, they've got their ex-talisman firing in goals left, right and centre for Dundee this year in Simon Murray. I think Simon Murray could come back to haunt his old team tonight.
Yeah, I mean, how many times have we saw that, Reagan, the ex-players come back to kind of haunt their team?
Big time. Big time. I think it's a good point, Desmond makes. I mean, there's been so many times where somebody who's played with the club before is being able to score against the opposite team. But what I don't like is when they don't tend to celebrate. I just don't agree with it. I remember Declan Rice playing against West Ham and he's putting his hands up. Same with Andy Halliday against Rangers. I just don't agree with it. You know, I mean, that club's paying your wages and you're enjoying playing for them. So I don't agree with that.
Yeah, and I was saying to the guys before you come on, Reagan. I mean, we were raving about Tony Docherty this last season. You know, but you know, what's happened to him this season?
I think there's been some great scores in there, beating Rangers, drawing at Tannadice, winning at Tannadice. So there's been some great scores in there. But and they obviously beat Dundee United in the Scottish as well, the quarter-final stage. So I think there's been signs in there that they can really do something special. But I think overall I don't think they can really say they've done a great job. But I think Dundee will be safe. And I think if you say to the Dundee chairman, start of the season, you'll be safe. I think they have to take that all day long. And I think he'll rebuild. I did like that cheeky comment from Luke in the middle of last week. I don't know if you've seen it, Dave, but he did say that if I hadn't joined Celtic and I was involved with Dundee, the Dundee wouldn't be a relegation battle. I like that the cockiness of it. I like the arrogance. It was quite good.
So Dave, Tony Docherty was talking yesterday, and he says that we know what we need to do, and we need to get the fans to get behind us and get all 3 points.
Absolutely. I did see something on Twitter today actually that I think they've got a decent crowd lined up for tonight as well, so that'll be good. I think, as much as I was talking about County's record against Dundee in the city of Discovery, I think Dundee have a decent enough home record as well. In fact, while we're here, guys, I'll get the teams for you because there's not much I need.
There you go. That's why Dave's here.
Right, well, that's how you're hit, yeah.
So the Dundee team, Michael Shushed. The Dundee team is Carson, Clark Robertson, Astley, Sean Desai, Mulligan, Cameron, Andy Woomy, Murray, Wakechi, I think that's how you pronounce it, Palmer Holden, and Portales. Bench for Dundee is McCracken, Garza, Kumitio, Tiffany, Riley, Fraser, Samuels, Roberts, and Snyler. Ross County lineup as follows. Let me just go and get it for you. They are Amisa, Wright, Conor Rando, Ronan Hale, Ellie Campbell, Casper Pata, Josh Nisbet, Mechi Ifete, Alex Samuel, Will Nightingale, and Noah Kenny. The bench is Logan Ross, James Brown, Kieran Phillips, Jonathan Tomkinson, George Harmon, Jordan White, Dylan Smith, and George Robeston.
There you go. That's a team news come out from Dens Park as well. Dave will be keeping his eyes, 2 eyes out for the rest of the team news as well. Let's move on to the 8 o'clock kickoff. Basically, it's just got the roll from Dave Reagan. It's Aberdeen against Celtic. It's the kind of aggressor rehearsal for the cup final.
Yeah, it will be. I mean, I don't think it'll be as competitive as that. I think Celtic will make a number of changes. I've not seen the Celtic team yet as followed, but I'm guessing Celtic will make a number of changes. I heard from Brendan a couple of days ago that he's changing the goalkeeper. I know that for certainty, but I don't know what the team will be overall. But I think in general, I think Celtic will go there and they'll do a job. But I think Aberdeen, they'll be looking and hoping that St Mirren can do them a favour. Because obviously St Mirren have got stuff to play for this season. They've got European football for 5th place as well. So that's a good thing from an Aberdeen point of view. But I don't see Aberdeen turning over Celtic. I see it being a 1-1 draw.
Dave, from an Aberdeen point of view, what are you hoping to see from the team tonight?
I don't mean to sound disrespectful, Michael, but I'm going to give you the team wins before I answer that question. So, the Celtic team is as follows: Sinisalo, Ralston, Trusty, Now Rocky, Schwab, McGregor, McCowan, Bernardo, Forrest, Young, and Kerry. So, as you kind of alluded to there, Regan, a second string team, and Sinisalo is scoring goals, as you say. Bench is Schmeichel, Johnston, Taylor, Scales, Ida, Kuhn, Engels, Hatate, and McCardle. I'll go to Aberdeen team just before I speak. Aberdeen team is Meathoff, Jensen, Dorrington, Noster, Shinney, Palversa, Clarkson, Morris, Gee, Keskinen, Nesbitt. Bench is Duhan, Devlin, McKenzie, McGrath, Polvara, who's that? Daba, Ockles, Mill, and Boyd. I think before I answer the question, Michael, I think both sides, I don't know if you agree here, Regan, I think both sides have the final in mind. I think they probably, Aberdeen still have something to play for, but Celtic don't. There's a more important game for Celtic women right now than there is Celtic men, to be brutally honest with you. But, I was expecting Celtic to make changes because it's probably a last hurrah, as I alluded to last Friday with you, Michael. And I think for Aberdeen, I can understand why you're saying St. Regan, but at the same time as well, I think Aberdeen need to get a reaction after Sunday. That's the most important thing for me. If we get a result tonight, great, it's a bonus. But I think we need a reaction after Sunday. Michael, what was the most important thing I said to you on Friday?
Well, to be honest, Dave, you said a lot of useful information, and I completely forgot what you were saying. I'm sorry. I must have been sunbathing at that point. Sorry, Dave.
In Glasgow, the way in which Aberdeen capitulated, especially in that 45 minutes, was abysmal. It was embarrassing. It was abject, and I think tonight is a sense of making sure that we're getting improvement, because I was making this point to Mike on Friday, Regan. As much as Aberdeen managers are defining trophies, they're also defining unit. They're also defining how they get on in Glasgow, and I think that's a mentality that's Hearts, Hibs, Aberdeen in particular. I think you are defining how you get on in Glasgow as well, especially for a club like Aberdeen. I don't know if I like that because I am an Aberdonian, but I get we are defining how we get on in Glasgow. Like if we're getting beat 1-0, but then we're getting an important point or getting a big win here and there, fair enough. But it's funny because I remember last season we had a big win and all went to the end of Michael Beale's tenure at the club, and he got the far back at Barry Robson's side because Barry Robson had been going for a tough period at that time. Probably he had a few sore defeats like Kilmarnock and various things, and that's square one. But it's mental how the perception of an Aberdeen manager can change when you get a result instead of a Glasgow team. Everybody was lapsing one goal but Jimmy Tillian when we beat Rangers at the Dodge at the start of the season, which was to a certain extent a meaningful game. Sunday did have a meaning to it, but to be brutally honest as well, I don't want to fall down a certain route. Rangers were in a bad place before Sunday. Based on what Barry Ferguson's been saying after the game, both in terms of post and pre-match conference, he's got that. What's the right word again? He's got that good vibe about him again. He's got a good feeling about him. He's basically flying with wings again, like the Red Bull advert. He's basically like that again, and that was not the case on Friday. It's funny what a big win does for a manager, but it's funny what a defeat does for a manager as well. As far as I'm concerned, I'm going to go as far as to say I think Jimmy Tillian needs to start the season well, because if he doesn't, knives will be out for him. If he wins the Scottish Cup, he'll be there as a legend. But if he gets beat in the Scottish Cup final and it doesn't start the season well, he'll be tarnished with the same brush that Barry Robson and Jim Goodwin got tarnished with. Just make a point as well. Jimmy Tulane and Scotland had exactly the same points after 36 games in charge as what Barry Robson had. And that just paints his own story.
Dave, I kind of said to you at the time as well that I think Aberdeen was too quick in getting rid of Barry Robson.
Possibly, but something had to change. It did. Not just in style of football, Michael, but just things he was saying. I can understand why you maybe think that, but nah, I think what he was saying in the press, how he was coming across with the fans, the style of football was a bit toothless. It was a bit meh. And I think it was the perfect storm at the time for the club. The Otway, Warwick, let's be honest, I think if the foundations and everything surrounding it been a lot better, I think Warwick probably would have done a better job. But it needed up and manager Peter Leaven to go and save the job. And Peter Leaven's exactly why he's still on Aberdeen's coaching staff, because he's a respected member of Jimmy Twain's team. He's had opportunities to move to Championship clubs in St Johnstone. It never quite happened, and I think that's the same why. But yeah, I think for Tilly, I'd argue the next 3 games are important. I'd argue tonight's important. I'd argue Saturday's important in Paradise, and I would argue the cup final's important. Lose all 3, he's under pressure the next season.
David,
yeah.
David, just to jump in there, and I'm not saying this because he's a friend of mine. He's done a couple of things for me and with my son, and I know him well. I think that the biggest mistake Aberdeen made was not trusting Peter Leaven and saying, do you know what? The players are buying into you. The fans are buying into you. We can't really do anything wrong here. Why just not give him that opportunity?
Absolutely. And I'm actually genuinely surprised he didn't go to St Johnstone, for example, Des.
Yeah.
I
know St Johnstone and Wraith Rovers were very interested.
Yeah, I think he's ready to be number 1. Now, there have been circumstances, because I know Wraith Rovers, as you said, were extremely interested in him. Wraith Rovers were going through a rich vein at that time, not in terms of form, but they were going through a rich vein in terms of how they were as a football club. But yeah, I think you're right. I think Peter Leaven is ready to be a manager. I think that's been evidently abundant. Now, I've been in a few Aberdeen press conferences when Leaven was the manager, and they all waxed lyrical about the job he done. I interviewed Jack McKenzie, for example, and he was speaking about how he's been working on basically making bombing runs up and down the park that was similar to what's the Man City left back called again? It was similar to how Andy Robertson did it, and there was also a Man City left back that I've totally forgotten about. But there's those kinds of things. I think what you find with Peter Leaven is he's quite philosophical in terms of how he plays and how he operates as a coach. And I think that a lot of that came from probably working abroad as well.
I think I was about to say, I'm not sure that people realise the journey that Ped's been on for the past few years. He's married, he's got children, he lived in the northeast England. He was travelling up and down to Kilmarnock when he was in with Lee Clark and Lee McCulloch. He then took himself out of his comfort zone and went over to Eastern Europe, was round numerous clubs over there. Dynamo Minsk, I'm sure, was one of them. And he's really broadened his horizons as a coach rather than try and be insular and be over here and go through working with the same people and the same old faces. He actually has taken the past few years to go and expand his own knowledge. I think Ped's going to be a great manager. He's been in the game. He grew up at Rangers as a young kid. He then went through the system down with Jim Jeffries and Billy Brown at Kilmarnock. He took himself off to England. He's a legend. He went down to Chesterfield in his first season, became captain down there. Went to MK Dons. This is a guy who's built his career out with Scotland and built his coaching career out with Scotland. Is that not what we always say that young people should do to broaden their horizons and bring something different and bring some perspective and different rather than just regurgitating the same people.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's a unique route to go down. I think there's not enough of it in the Scottish football days. I think we need more coaches, and I think we need more people that are going to show ambition. Their circumstances will differ from one way to another in terms of family, in terms of the qualifications, just the specific things that will curtail coaches and managers to a certain extent. I think also at the same time, I think we do need. I think there's a fear. I don't know if fear is the right word to use here, Des and Michael, but there is a fear among coaches in Scottish football that they feel comfortable. And I've not been a coach at like junior level or anything, but I'm coaching like kids just now. And I've been saying to myself when I'm working with kids, I'm like, I want to go out of my comfort zone because I'm going out of my comfort zone because it's going to allow me to grow as a coach. And I don't think there's enough of that in the game here in Scotland.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Totally agree. The minute you become comfortable as a coach is the minute that you stop educating and the players enjoying it as well. You've got to put yourself in difficult circumstances. So, yeah, I think Peter's destined to be a great first team manager somewhere.
And from a Celtic from Celtic going up their days tonight, obviously they won the league, and obviously they're looking forward to the Scottish Cup final against Aberdeen in about 2 weeks' time. But do you think this will be the night that James Forrest will get his goal?
Probably. It'll be good for him to be interested to see what happens with him coming in the season. But I think he will probably get a goal tonight. Well, he could probably get a goal. It's obviously starting, so it could be an interesting night for him. I think he'll look to go and put on an interesting showing. As I say, Brendan Rodgers has probably. I'll be interested because tonight is the perfect opportunity for Brendan Rodgers. Brendan Rodgers is not going to go out on Saturday against someone in the second string team, is he? Especially Flag Day. Do you think, being a top fan, Michael, do you generally think he's going to put out a second string team when a lot of the work in terms of winning the title has been down to the key players within the team? I don't think he will. I think he's got one eye on Saturday, and I think he's got one eye in the cup final. If he wants to go and make changes, I think tonight's the ultimate night to go and do that, and that's why I think James Forrest fits the mould of that regard.
And also as well, it's amazing how you know that I like football, Dave. As well, you're having a brilliant game tonight, man. By the way, man of the match by far. But yeah, so of course, James Forrest gets his goal tonight. He's scored in every kind of league game since he's Scottih gets it. I can't remember the publications of that one, but obviously if he wins the Scottish Cup, it would be the most decorated Celtic player. I think he's went past Bobby Lennox by 2 days. Is that right?
I'm not sure. You would need to somebody would need to be able to confirm that, but I do know that he's scored a goal in every season that he's played in Scottish football, and he's pretty much won a trophy in every year that he's played in Scottish football. So while you don't need to be his biggest fan in the world if you support Motherwell, Rangers, anyone, you've got to respect what he's done because it's absolutely tremendous. And it just shows you that not just Brendan Rodgers, but going back to Martin O'Neill, Gordon Strachan, Ange Postecoglou, these guys have always put James Forrest in their squad. So he's thoroughly deserving of it, and for a person to achieve that, then you can only congratulate them, and I hope he does. I hope he does get that personal accolade that he's where he sits within the history of Celtic.
Dave, your manager was talking yesterday about the game. He said the Celtic's a good team, but as a one-off game, anything could happen. When we at home, and obviously you saw that against Rangers a couple of weeks ago. That you know they won the game.
Sorry, what was your last bit again? Sorry, Michael.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, Jimmy Tallene said yesterday, don't know if you said that, source press conference, but he said that Celtic are a good team, but as a one-off game, anything could happen. And I was just about to say that, as a one-off game, anything could happen. That I mean, you made they beat Rangers a few weeks ago, so they're playing Celtic tonight at home, so anything could happen in that game.
Yeah, absolutely. I just misunderstood you last, but that's why I was wondering what you were saying. I think tonight Celtic's a different proposition from Rangers. Let's be brutally honest. Even though they are putting their second string team out tonight, which I think is needed, and I'll emphasise that point. I think on the other hand, I think it's an opportunity for Aberdeen to rectify Sunday. I think that's the most important aspect as far as I'm concerned. I think it's an opportunity for us to maybe, I don't know, I think it's an opportunity for us to look at one or two things ahead of the cup final, but I think it's an opportunity for Jimmy to, I think he's made one or two changes tonight anyway. It's an opportunity for them to step up and really start knocking at the door in terms of getting in the team sheet for the cup final. There's cup final places to play for them. I think it's not like Celtic where it's going to be natural who's going to probably go and start that cup final. I think for Aberdeen, I don't think these places confirmed in the team yet for that cup final because of probably Sunday, and I think that'll be the idea for Jimmy. Also, one point about Sunday is Jimmy tried something different on Sunday. It didn't work, so I'm expecting him to go back to a bit of normality this evening. So it'll be interesting to see how we approach and set up and see if we can keep the game set up or not.
Des Brendan Rodgers saying it's an important game and it's a exciting few games for us starting tonight against Aberdeen.
Yeah, well, they've got 3 games left to round off their season, potentially round off a treble, which, and I know people say, oh, it's a treble, it's another treble. Trebles in my day growing up never happened. So to go and see a club do this all the time, you've got to appreciate it because it's not an easy job. There's high pressure on it. I would expect. I know Brendan Rodgers has made a few changes tonight, but would you not expect every one of the changes from the Celtic team to get into an Aberdeen starting 11 as well? You just look at the strength and depth that Celtic have. I would anticipate a Celtic victory tonight. I know they'll. Well, I don't know. I would expect them to go out on Trophy Day with a strong team looking to finish off with a flourish and get their team ready for Hampden the following week. I do think that this game tonight will have absolutely no bearing on the cup final, no matter who wins. If Celtic lost tonight, it'll have no bearing. I think there's more riding on the game for Aberdeen to get over the disastrous second half that they had at the weekend, and for players to try and put themselves into the position where they are looking for starting places in the cup final. And as David said earlier, Jimmy Tallene, really no game's an easy game for Jimmy Tallene at the moment because there's a lot riding on these last 3 games of the season and the early part of next season. So he really has to try and recreate that positive energy that he had going forward. So I think it's a bigger game for Aberdeen at Celtic, but I still would expect Celtic to have enough quality within their team to get through it tonight.
Okay, a couple minutes left on the show, and let's talk about the game. Well, maybe 10 minutes away from me. 10 minutes away from me. 5 minutes away from me. Maybe if I was walking, that was 10 minutes. I'm not sure. And maybe I'm not going to ask guess where you are because you have a lot of people at the window wanting selfies with you. Or you know,
no, probably a lot of people at the window with bricks, more like.
Well, that's what we call it in Paisley, selfies. If you call it bricks, that's up to you.
I'm not in Paisley. I'm not in Paisley.
You're not in Paisley, right? Okay, yeah. Well, but
no,
yeah,
I'm picking up.
I know who you are.
Yeah.
I know, Des, you were saying about the game over the night would be Motherwell and Carmarthen, but I think the game in Paisley might be good because I think if Hibs win this one, you might say that they've qualified for Europe. but they've got to beat St Mirren first.
Well, if things had went the way I was planning tonight, my darling wife would have been doing this job that I'm doing just now, but she has to be working and catching up on things, and I would have been at the St Mirren game tonight. That was already pre-arranged, but you know what things are like. Things can be fickle and change at the last minute. Hibs, yes, they can qualify here and thoroughly deserved for them, but being as big a St Mirren fan as I can be, I never seen St Mirren winning 3-0 at the weekend up at Tannadice. I thought that was absolutely tremendous. And it just shows you what Stephen Robinson is put into this team, put into this club, that they go and beat Dundee United 3-0, and it's not a surprise. They're now back tonight. They're back at Love Street, New St Mirren Park. I think this is going to be really difficult, but I wouldn't put it past St Mirren getting a result tonight. I can actually see us getting. I can actually see St Mirren getting a. I don't see them getting beat. That's maybe it. So a draw or a St Mirren victory, I can see tonight. I might have egg over my face, but I can see St Mirren taking something from this game tonight and pushing it a wee bit further back, which may also be a benefit to Hibs and a sort of cruel twist of fate, because therefore they're get their European place with their final game at home in front of their own fans.
Stephen Robertson was saying yesterday, Des, that focus on the game, but it's going to be a tough game because Hibs are a good team. How impressed have you been by Stephen Robertson? I mean, that's 2 seasons back to back now that St Mirren's been in the top 6.
I remember when St Mirren came back to the Premier League a few years ago, and Tony Fitzpatrick was derided for saying that St Mirren will be a top 6 team in qualifying for Europe as they've come into the Premier League. What Jack Ross had built a really, really good foundation. Jack Ross had built a great St Mirren team. We then went through a couple of managers that it didn't quite come off for. Stephen Robinson had shown what he'd done at Motherwell. He'd shown he's got a style of play and a style of player that he likes, and he's adopted that at St Mirren as well, with probably less of a budget than Motherwell had. But what Stephen Robinson has got behind him, and Keith Lasley is the chief executive, Jim Gillespie is the chief executive, and obviously closely aligned with my own employment. I think St Mirren really is a fairy tale over the last few years. A fan-owned club, debt not there, a good stadium, a good home support, getting into Europe, a manager that I'm sure will be courting attention from elsewhere. He was linked with the Hearts job as well. I think Stephen Robinson should always be linked there with bigger jobs, and for some reason he doesn't, and I hope he doesn't, because what he's doing at St Mirren's great. I just think that Stephen Robinson, if there's a team in the image of their manager, it's Stephen Robinson and St Mirren.
Dave, a quick word about Hibs. Basically, David Gray says it's a massive game for us. It's a massive game for us pushing to go into Europe. But St Mirren's on good form, and it's going to be a very difficult game against them at the home patch.
Yeah, Des said I don't think it's a walk in the park for Hibs tonight. I don't think Hibs will win. I think if they do win, it's a big result. I think for Hibs, they've had a really good season, an excellent season, in fact. Saturday was a blip, but Hibs should never be judged against the Glasgow teams. I think they'll to bounce back tonight. I think a draw is a big result for Hibs. I think it's theirs to lose. I don't know if you guys agree. I think it's theirs to lose in terms of European place. Would it be that? I mean, fair, but they obviously end the season against Rangers on Saturday. So it's not like it's mission impossible for Hibs. They've got 2 games in which they can easily build on it. And effectively, when you think about it, if they win tonight, that's the incentive. If you win tonight, you're effectively finishing third, because As Des said, I can't see Aberdeen getting anything tonight out of Celtic. And then on the other hand as well, Hibs, if Aberdeen were to lose tonight, Hibs only need a point. So, yeah, there's a potential for Hibs to make history tonight, and that's a big incentive.
Final game tonight to look at, guys, is Rangers against Dundee United. Of course, it's all the headlines has been written over the park, obviously, for Rangers for weeks. Is a takeover going to happen? Is a new manager going to come in? Is this Barry Ferguson's last game at Ibrox? And to be honest, guys, I think it will be his last game at Ibrox. But he was talking yesterday about the game, and he says, this is our last game of the season, and it will be an important one to get a win. If you were a Rangers fan, Des, you were hoping that the season would get finished about maybe in December.
Oh, well, December was probably an early cut-off. Yeah, it's just not happened for them, has it? It's not happened from him. Philippe Clement was lauded as this top-class European coach who's also won leagues in Belgium. He's been over at Monaco. He had the pedigree. It just didn't work for him, and it didn't work for him in Glasgow. Barry Ferguson's came in. He's maybe rallied the players to an extent. He's maybe he's had obviously some great results in Europe. I'm just very interested to see where they go, because he did seem to hint the other day in his press conference that things are happening and that he expects news in the next couple of days. Whether that news is he's going to be allowed to carry on an interim basis or a year's rolling contract. But the season's up on Sunday, and pre-season will be starting in 4 weeks' time. Who's bringing the players in? Who's going to manage them? Who's going to coach them? I don't think Ancelotti's the answer. I think they've tried experiments with Clement and Beale, and obviously a few other foreign nationals come in. I think they do need somebody that has a British mentality.
I think that's a big risk, Des. I think that's a big risk.
Yeah, and it's risk that they're taking that have not come off. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting reading. It'll be interesting to view it, because let's be honest, they have to get this one right with this new investment group coming in from the 49ers, and they're going to be looking at a long-term strategy. Well, a long-term strategy starts with the first appointment, and the first appointment has to be correct.
For Dundee United, Dave, I know Jim Goodwin was talking yesterday about it's been a bit of a disappointing run of results, but it's still in our hands, and we need to be positive. And he basically says, and we know how difficult the next two fixtures are. Now, I know Jim Goodwin is, you know, a good manager, and he's did well for Dundee United, getting them into the Premiership, getting them into the top six in the first game of asking, but disappointing on the run of the results. But I mean, they've had quite a good season, Dave.
Yeah, I remember being at Dundee United's press conference in December, covering for somebody. I actually asked Jim Goodwin, where do you want to finish at the end of the season? And he said fourth. He said fourth would be a really good season for us. And Dundee United could go a long way to obviously finishing fourth with a big win tonight. They obviously got a good point, albeit Rangers, I think, are a different proposition now. But they did get a good point the last time they played Rangers at Ibrox, the 1-1 draw. There was all the storms and everything. I think I'm not rolling out Dundee to get the result tonight. I'm not. I think Jim Goodwin would approach the game differently to how Jimmy Torino approached the game, or how he did approach the game. And that's where I think you can see Dundee taking the game tonight. Now, I was a bit big-headed on Friday when I said I thought Aberdeen could utilise the hostility at Ibrox to their full advantage. Now, it was the total opposite, I think for Dundee, I think they've got the players to really take the game tonight. So it's going to be interesting to see how they get on.
Okay, so we're just about 50 minutes away from all the quarter kick kickoffs, and then the 8 o'clock kickoff, Aberdeen against Celtic. We'll be back at 10 with the reaction show to everything that's happened tonight in the Premiership as well. And look at the women's football, actually, because there's some games on in the women's football, so we'll keep you up to date with that. Thanks to Des, Reagan and Dave, and we'll be back at 10 to look back at the 90 minutes of the games tonight.
The Locker Room, with all the sports news you need. Live